Hi, my name's Chris Smith, and thank you for getting the Twilite effect. This DVD is going to teach you all about the prop, teach you how to use it and where to use it, and how to get maximum impact off of it. Twilite's a great trick because it's so different. There's three powerful pieces of magic. First, you pull out a little tiny bulb, looks like a bulb off a brake light in a car, and you magically and psychically cause the light to turn on in your hand. It's very magical, and a lot of people think that's the trick, that it's over. But then you cause the bulb to stand up eerily on one end. It just stands up by itself. It animates and comes to life. So now it's lit and it stands up. Now you could stop there if you want, and some magicians actually think that's a good place to stop, but I like taking it to the next level and floating it, and doing a brief float and floating the light around while it's still lit, only to catch it at the end and then blow it out. It's a beautiful effect. You can perform it just about anywhere. Let's get started. The two button cells batteries go inside Twilite. The button cells have two sides. There's sort of a rounded top with a little circle. That's one side, we'll call that the top, and then they're flat on the bottom. If you ever need to change batteries, it's pretty simple. Just grab the aluminum housing, and then with the globe, I'm just going to twist the globe off just like that. So I'm just twisting it a little bit counterclockwise, about a quarter turn, and then you just pull it out, and that separates it. If you ever need to replace the batteries, you can just push them out with a pen or a paper clip and replace them back in. Now to replace the unit, you'll notice there's a nipple right on the positive side of the battery holder, and there's only one channel on the aluminum housing that nipple will fit into. So if you replace this, you can turn it all around, but it only wants to go in where the nipple is, and as soon as it goes in, it will sort of seat properly, and then to lock it, you're just going to turn it the opposite way, which is clockwise, about a quarter of a turn, and now it's ready to go. This is how Twilite works. Twilite has a tilt switch built in the inside of it, but to activate the tilt switch, see, it doesn't work right now, all you have to do is press in the bottom. That's on, that's off. Now when it's in the on position, you can actually tilt Twilite down, and when you do, the light turns on. And then when you tilt it back up, the light turns off. Now if I turn the unit off by pressing the button, tilting it, doesn't turn it on. You'll notice that there's an orientation dot on your Twilite, and that's for you to orient the bulb in such a way that the light mechanism turns on the easiest. For example, when it's facing up, it only takes just a slight amount of tilt to turn the light on, and vice versa, a slight amount of tilt to turn it back off again. And we just test them before we send them out. We find the most sensitive angle where it is that the light wants to turn on. We put a little dot there so it makes it easy when you're performing to orient the bulb correctly to get the best performance out of it. Now we're going to strip a thread. To strip a thread, you'll be using the wax, and you want 2 beads of wax, a bigger one and a smaller one. That'll be our bigger one, and we'll get a nice little small one. You'll also need the nylon. Just take it from the little cut in the card and unravel it. To pull a thread, just pick at the end of the invisible thread, and you can see one coming out up against the paper there. Get it out just a few inches. Take one of the balls of wax, touch it to the thread, and wrap it around, and just pull more thread out. And as you pull the thread out, the nylon will bunch up, but that's fine, that can be pulled down too. So we'll just take this ball of wax, attach it off camera to the far left hand side of the table, and just keep on stripping out thread. Once you have 3 or 4 feet, we're going to get this smaller bead of wax and wrap the other length of thread around the smaller bead. Press it in, bend the wax around it, and then break the thread after the wax. We now have about a 3 to 4 feet length of invisible thread, doing a big U here, and we can adjust this length by rolling the wax between our fingers to make it shorter, or wrapping the thread around the wax and squeezing it in. And just a side note, you can use a single thread like I have here, and it will work fine with Twilite. It will work great with the effect. Or if you like, for more insurance, just to make sure if you're putting extra stresses on the thread while you're floating because you're more aggressive when you float, you can pull 2 or even 3 threads depending on the performing conditions that you're working in. So you've pulled your thread, you have 2 beads of wax, one at each end, and just to show you, I have about a 4-foot length. You can see the little bead in front of me going over my finger, and I have the other bead in my hand to see how long it is. The bigger bead of wax is in my right hand. That's going to go in the top of my ear. And the other bead of wax, this little guy, is going to go on the end of Twilite. So to set up, is I pull the thread over my head, straight over my head, and then I veer to my right, and I place the bead of wax not in my ear, but right under the top ledge of my ear. There. And you can sort of feel it gets stuck in there. So it's right up there. And it's invisible to just about anyone, unless somebody's staring at your ear for some reason. They shouldn't say anything. So that's all set to go. And by the way, you may need to wash your ear before you do it. Make sure there's no skin oil in there, because oil will cause the wax to come loose, or a Q-tip with some alcohol in it. Just clean the top there before you put the wax in. So here's my other ball of wax, a little bead of wax. Just a little guy, that's all you want. Actually, I'm going to take a little bit more wax off this to make it even smaller. And if you've ever worked with thread and wax before, you know not to do this in very hot rooms or on hot days, because it makes the wax too loose and the thread will pull from the wax. In a case like that, I suggest moving to tape. So if you're working in a hot environment, be forewarned, I've done it before, you'll have to use tape instead of wax. Okay, I just made the bead a little bit smaller. You should be able to see it. Just a little tiny bead. Okay, and we're going to stick that on the end of Twilite. So, and by the way, if the camera can pan down, if you can see where the bead is, it's right underneath my belly. Here's my belly. It's about right there. That's a little too long. Usually I like the bead to be right around my belly button, or a little bit above. And the weight of Twilite will actually make it a little bit longer too. So get Twilite, get the small bead, and you're going to stick it right into the bottom in that little hole, that little depression, it's called a counter bore actually, that's on the bottom of the switch. And you want to stick it in there so there's lots of surface contact so it won't pull through. And you want to make it nice and neat and round so it kind of looks like the little bead of solder that you see at the bottom of most light bulbs that are used to make contact, electrical contact. And it kind of sort of naturally darkens the more you touch it and the more thread is inside the wax. And once that's on there, you're all set to go. And just to show you where it's hanging on me right now, okay, it's right above my belt buckle. I can still do all the effects that I want to do with this. You may like it a little bit higher. It will work. The trick will work if the light bulb is about up to your belly or a little bit above your belly. If it's a little higher than that, it's kind of tough to pull off some of the floating moves. With the thread attached, you want to make sure Twilite is in the off position. That's on. That's off with the switch out. Just put Twilite in your pocket. It won't turn on. Threads all attached over my head, over my face, and down to the pocket. We're all set to perform. So to perform, you'll reach into your pocket and pull out the bulb. I always bring the bulb out with the glass at the top, the switch on the bottom. You'll notice the switch is still in the off state. This is the on state. Here's the off state when it's out. And the first thing I'll do is I just turn it and I look for the orientation mark. Ah, there it is. It's the black mark that tells me the best place to tilt the bulb from. So I make sure that that mark, that little black dot, is facing me. Now, as I place the bulb down into my left hand, I'm going to squeeze the switch to turn it on. But they can't see that because I do it in the course of placing the bulb down onto my hand. So now Twilite is armed. All I have to do is tilt my hand down and it will turn on. Now, this is very like the haunted key, if you're familiar with that effect. You're going to tilt your hand down so slowly that spectators won't suspect it has anything to do with the light turning on. So what I'm going to do is just tilt my hand down slowly and the light will turn on. Now, as I do that, I like to gesture just so slightly with my right hand to make it look like I'm causing the magic and it's not an accident. Plus it takes the heat off the left hand tilting. So once again, I'm in this position. I put the light down in my hand and I gesture with the right hand as the left hand dips down, and once it turns on I pull back the right hand. So they've just seen their first piece of magic. The light has turned on right in front of them. And at this point, they think the trick's over. You might get applause just for that. They don't know that there's more to come. The best is yet to come. The second thing you're going to do is you're going to cause the light bulb to animate while it's on. You're going to get it to stand up in your hand. You do this just by lowering the left hand very slowly once again. Remember to keep it tilted so the light stays on. As I gesture with the right hand, and I get it to stand up. Now, for the final piece of magic, you're going to tilt your head back and cause the light bulb to rise up. So once again, display the bulb, put it in your hand, tilt your hand as you gesture to make it turn on, tilt your head slightly back to get the light bulb to stand up, and then finally tilt your head back to make it rise off your hand several inches. At this point, I put both my right and my left hand around the light bulb, and I'm sort of going to pull with both hands, but as I do, I look towards the right. And wherever I look is where the light bulb goes. So the right hand has nothing to do with it, it's just sort of a red herring. So as I pull with both hands, it just magnetically seems to follow the right hand. So you think the right hand may have something to do with it, but then I negate that theory by just doing this. Then I go to the left. Remember, wherever you look is where the light bulb goes, and I pretend like I'm pushing it with my right hand. I just look to the left. Then sort of like hunched over, I'm sort of hunched over a little bit. I'm going to go down with my hands as my head rises up. So it looks like the bulb is flying up through my left and right hands. Now to end the routine, the right hand comes under the thread. My thumb's right under the thread right now. My thumb has the thread going over it right at this point. I'm going to push the thread out and have the light bulb follow my hand. And I'm going to grab a hold of the light bulb. And I'm going to turn the light bulb up as I blow on it to make it look as if I'm blowing the light out. It looks like this. Once again, I'm just using the tilt switch inside the bulb to make the bulb go out. Now at this point you're done with the routine. So the only thing you have to do before you put it in your pocket is squeeze the switch. That turns it off. And as your hand's moving and you do that, nobody can see it and nobody can hear it. You drop it back in your pocket. It won't turn on accidentally. And you're all set to perform Twilite again.